As you know very well, the revolution of the consciousness has three factors: to be born, to die, and the sacrifice for humanity. The birth is a totally sexual problem. To die, on it the sex also fulfills a function. The sacrifice for humanity is love. Obviously, the sacrifice is fulfilled through the esoteric work for the benefit of everybody. Let us begin with the first factor: to be born. Certainly, the human being is not completed yet. All the creatures born completes, except the human being. A dog borns being a dog, and as it is complete. An eagle borns being an eagle, has big wings and an extraordinary sight that allow him to hunt even the farthest serpents. He borns complete. However, the poor intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, borns incomplete. It happens that he borns without the vehicles that he should possess. He borns without an astral, mental, and causal bodies. Then what does it born? A physical, a planetary body, with a vital base and nothing else. What does it exist beyond that? The ego of an animal nature. Does the poor intellectual animal possess a consciousness? Yes, he does have it, but bottled up among the ego, and that is all. An asleep consciousness, a consciousness, we would say, conditioned by its own condition. So he borns incomplete. The germ, we would say, penetrates in a womb in order to obtain its convenient development, but the fact of having been born does not mean that has finished its processes of unfolding. The germ that was gestated in a maternal womb and that was born is totally incomplete, because he does not possess the existential superior bodies of the being. And on the other hand, the physical body has not even finished his process of development. The total development of the physical body is processed through the 7, 14 to 21 years of age. The physical body is able to unfold inside of the maternal womb because of the sexual energy. Thanks to the creative energy, the physical body can continue his process of development through the 7, 14, and 21 years of age. Therefore, the physical body does not born complete. It needs to unfold. Unfortunately, we can see that the adolescents, not having completed their process of development yet, are already fornicating, something that is clearly absurd, because the creative energy that they waste is necessary and indispensable to complete the process of development of the physical body. Honestly, the sexual function should start at the age of 21 years of age, not before, because that germ that one day entered in the maternal womb has not completed his processes of development yet. Therefore, to expose it to copulation is absurd. My dear brothers, it is worth to reflect about it. Since the 21 years of age, the energy is useful for other activities. Before the 21 years of age, the sexual energy only has one objective: to complete the development of the germ. That is to say, to complete the development of the physical body. After the 21 years of age, the creative energy could be used for the second birth and the creation of the existential superior bodies of the being. Unfortunately, people do not know how to utilize the creative energy, the energy that have fecundated the maternal womb, the energy that allowed the fetus to unfold in the very womb and to later pass through the ages of 7, 14, and 21 years of age. When the energy is already free, people, instead of using it for their complete realization and to finish their self-construction, because the human being born incomplete, eliminate it from their organism. We well know that people extract from their organism the exiohihari, the sacred sperm, and that is really serious. Now, when we are reaching the point related with the birth, first factor for the consciousness revolution, we have to comprehend that in all order of things, humanity walks through involution. We well know that the adolescents not only waste the sexual material, the creative energy or sacred sperm in the copulation, but also get the vice of masturbation. Unfortunately, that vice has become more common than the action of washing one's hands. The young people, men and women, have that unfortunate vice which lead them to ruin their brain miserably and therefore idiocy themselves. How many wills may have been wonderful and dried off, how many beautiful faces become withered, and all of this because of lack of instruction. In reality, both sexes do not receive in the schools and the colleges the proper instruction about the sexuality, and of course the sexual impulse make them to feel the necessity of using the sex, but because they do not have an orientation, normally the adolescents speak with their friends, and in this form begin the repugnant vice of masturbation. This is the misfortune of our times, besides other vices that unfortunately also have become commons, like the homosexuality and lesbianism. Obviously, the homosexuals are degenerate seeds that are totally useless. The lesbians are degenerate seeds that can never germinate. So the vices that actually exist in relation with the sex are unbearable. If males and females could grow in a clean form, with a perfect and complete sexual education, everything would be different. If in truth men and women could reach the age of 21 years respecting the sex with real purity, it would be great. We would have a new generation of better beings. Unfortunately, the poor humanity do not receive sexual education when they need it most, and in this form they reach the 21 years of age already degenerated. The normal thing would be to reach the 21 years of age with strong and healthy bodies. That would be marvelous. If at the 21 years of age, in the moments in which the energy is available for any class of activity, it were utilized with the intention of creating the existential superior bodies of the being, that would be formidable. Obviously, I think that you already know the key of alchemy, that you do not ignore the Latin phrase that says, "Emissium miembro virale in vaginam femina sine eaculationem seminis." In synthesis, we would say, connection of the lingam yoni without spilling the glass of Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 times greater god ibis of thought. As you see, I am giving the key in a clear form, but in a decent language, because when one instructs the students and speaks about the sexual mysteries, one has to do so with modesty and with experience. Never in a vulgar style, because that would be a very incorrect example. People would become scandalized and would form erroneous concepts about our teachings. Obviously, the restrained desire will transmute the sacred sperm in creative energy. Well, it is convenient to you to know that the sexual energy that today is oftenly mentioned in physiology, in psychology, in psychoanalysis, etc., 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 is the very mercury of the Middle Ages alchemists. That creative energy once transmuted is the very mercury of the wise men. Obviously, that mercury crystallizes in a superior octave through the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, with the marvelous and resplendent form of the astral body. Well, the astral body is not necessary for the life of the human being. People live without an astral body. The vital body guarantees the life of the physical body. The astral body is a luxury that very few can get, but that is really worth to be obtained. One knows that has an astral body when can use it, when can walk with it, when can travel through the space with it. That vehicle, when is possessed, confers immortality in the astral world. One becomes immortal in that region. In a second higher octave, with the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, the mercury of the wise men crystallizes in the famous and resplendent mental body. When one possesses a mental body, receives direct illumination. With a mental body, we can capture all the teachings of the universe. A bit further, we have the body of the conscious will. No one borns with the body of the conscious will. However, through the transmutation of the sexual libido, the mercury of the wise men crystallizes in a higher octave with the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, in the extraordinary form of the causal body or body of the conscious will. Once with those vehicles, physical, astral, mental, and causal, it is obvious that one can receive the psychic and spiritual principles and become a man. The first birth, as you saw, was the planetary body or physical body. The second birth is the birth of the son of the man, the birth of the man, yes, of the man. One of the factors for the consciousness revolution is to be born as a man. In the first case, what was born is the intellectual animal. In the second birth was born the man, the son of the man, the true man. It is said that the true man is the causal man. Why the causal man is called the true man? Simply because he has created the causal body that is the last one which is necessary to create in order to become a man. Then his gravity center is established in the causal world. He lives in that region. The causal world has a profound blue, intensive electric tonality. That is its basic or fundamental color, the color of the ether or akash, the pure akash. There, one finds that everything flows, go and come, ascend and descend, grow and decrease. In the world of the natural causes, we know all the enchainment of effects and causes, of causes and effects. Every cause has an effect, and every effect convert itself in a cause. Each word that we say can originate many effects, an entire group of effects. In certain occasion, being in the causal world, I was listening a man dictating a lecture. Intentionally, I interrupted that man in order to object some of his words. That causal man kept silenced, certainly that was correct, but I immediately saw the result of my words, of my objection. Finished that meeting, each person went out saying something, their own concept, and these concepts at the same time produced other results, and these other results produced others and others and others. Conclusion? I found that my interruption had originated a group of consequences. I did that intentionally, with the intention of investigating the law of cause and effect, and that was the result. In the world of the natural causes, one knows what the law of cause and effect is. Of course, the lords of the law in that region, with their weights and balances, they are always active, annotating in the Akashic archives the debts and credits of each one of us. One become really astonished when see in some meetings in the world of the natural causes the different incarnated adepts congregated in the agora and dressing as we do here in the physical world. I do not want to say that this is always in this way. Of course, the adepts within the temples wear their sacred clothes, but in certain meetings, in certain assemblies, all of these masters that have body in the physical world assist decently dressed as gentlemen, like if they were in the physical world. They use tie, costume, watch, etc., etc., etc. Why do they do that? Because that is the region of the man, of the real man, of the true man, the region of the causal man. The second birth means to be born as the causal man, as a true man, and that is the first factor for the consciousness revolution. To die. If the germ does not die, the plant cannot be born. It is necessary to die. That is to say, the animal ego has to die within ourselves, in our psyche, if we want to enjoy the authentic illumination. Normally, the Gnostic brothers, the aspirants, our members, suffer a lot because of lack of illumination. They want to be able to walk in the ineffable regions, to visit the nirvana, the mahaparinirvana, to listen the music of the spheres, etc. But when they see themselves enslaved in this three-dimensional region of Euclid, not being able to perceive the wonders of the superior worlds, they suffer a lot. And of course, their sufferings are logical. They have reason to suffer. Speaking in a plain language, I would say you that they want to saddle before having the horses, or to milk the cow before to buy it. They intend to become explorers of the space, not having attained the faculties for doing so. Sometimes they become involved in spiritualism and end up as mediums, etc. Among parentheses, the result of this practice is epilepsy. All the epileptics that we have investigated were mediums of spiritualism in past existences. Well, that is nothing agreeable to become epileptic. That is something really hard. Well, continuing, I will say you that illumination is not possible meanwhile the ego is not eliminated. Normally, the consciousness, or better to say abnormally, because I would not call normal the fact that is bottled up among the myself, among the I of the experimental psychology. It is clear that meanwhile the consciousness remains bottled up among the ego, enclosed among the myself, it will be asleep, will work according to its own condition, it will be subjective, incoherent, imprecise. I have listened the inform about the tenebrous attacks in Guadalajara, and I have answered to them that all of that exists because of subjectivity, because of the ego. That some brothers result possessed by demons, that the witches of midnight mounted on brooms come to bother the good brothers, that attack them constantly, that menace to kill them, and many other incoherents sound to me like voodoo. Naturally, at bottom, all of that is ominous. However, nothing of that incoherent and imprecise things of witches, vampires, and 50,000 things like that could happen if the aspirants would not have the ego. That situation is originated because of the ego. When did somebody listen that a Gautama Sakyamuni was attacked by the witches of the Sabbath, or that they possessed him, or that suddenly Gautama stood up, wounding seriously somebody at the time that said, "I kill you, I am coming to kill you"? That kind of situations have never seen among the initiates. So all of those things happen among those that have ego. Not having ego, there is nothing of that. Annihilating the ego, all of that finish. When one destroys the ego and pass through the Buddhist annihilation, the consciousness is liberated and the incoherences finish. All what comes forth is the total illumination, without spots or incoherences of any type. When one has an objective mind, the only thing that exists is the clarity of the spirit. Then one walks through the world of the mathematics and perfections. However, all of that would not be possible if before one does not pass through the Buddhist annihilation. I could synthesize the didactic for the Buddhist annihilation in a few words. We need to live alert and vigilantes as the watchmen in wartime. It is in the field of the practical life, in relation with our relatives, at home, in the street, in the job, where the hidden defects that we carry appear in a spontaneous form. Discovered defect has to be judged immediately, has to be immediately analyzed. Through the evident self-reflection of the being, we can know any defect directly. Once we have comprehended the determined psychological error, undoubtedly we can have the luxury of disintegrate it. However, we have arrived to a very difficult point. Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Nichols, and many other authors of the Fourth Path, Gnostics also as we, because, among parentheses, we also belong to the Fourth Path or Fourth Way, thought that any inhuman psychic aggregate, that is to say any defect or I, could be disintegrated through the simple creative comprehension and nothing else. Gurdjieff made an unforgivable mistake, and for this, of course, he got a serious karma, when he spoke against the Divine Mother Kundalini. Did he do it in ignorant form? I do not deny this. However, the ignorance of the law does not exclude its fulfillment. He confused the sacred serpent Kundalini with the abominable Kundartigwador organ, and attributed to Devi Kundalini the tenebrous leftist defects of the abominable Kundartigwador organ. In order you could understand this in better form, I will say that there are two serpents, the one that ascends and another that descends. The serpent of bronze that healed the Israelites in the desert, coiled in the generative lingam in the Tao, and the serpent Python that dragged along the mud of the earth and that Apollo wounded with his arrows. The serpent that ascends is sacred, is the Kundalini. The one that descends is the Kundartigwador. The mistake of Gurdjieff was to attribute to the sacred serpent the hypnotic, tenebrous, and abominable effects of the descendant serpent. In that point, he failed. The factor to be born is defined as the second birth, achieved by creating the causal body, which establishes the individual as a true man with his center of gravity in the causal world, the realm of cause and effect, or law. The factor to die is the essential process of Buddhist annihilation of the animal ego, which is required for authentic illumination and an objective mind. This annihilation requires vigilance, self-reflection, and comprehension of defects. But the text asserts that simple comprehension is insufficient, specifically critiquing Gurdjieff's failure to recognize the need for the fire of the Divine Mother Kundalini, the ascending serpent, to disintegrate the ego, which he mistakenly confused with the detrimental force of the Kundartiguador, the descending serpent. In our country, Mexico, there exists the Institute for the Harmonious Development of the Man, that is, the school of Gurdjieff. I ask myself, who among them has attained the elimination of the eyes? What student has reached the radical liberation of the consciousness? Who among them has reached the objective illumination? None. Why? Because the mind by itself cannot fundamentally alter any defect. It can classify it with different names, justify it, condemn it, look for subterfuges or escapes in order to elude it or hide it from the mind itself and the other defects, but it can never disintegrate it. We need a power that is superior to the mind, and Gurdjieff did not utilize that system on himself. I regret that Gurdjieff had deviated from the sense of the teaching that I gave to him, because Gurdjieff is my disciple. I regret the fact that he had made that serious error. Unfortunately, he allowed himself to be influenced by other mentalities. Observing all of this clearly, we see the necessity of a power that is superior to the mind, and this power is none other than Kundalini, the igneous serpent of our magical powers. Only she can disintegrate any inhuman psychic aggregate of anger, greed, lust, envy, etc., etc., etc. Naturally, first it is necessary to discover the defect that one wants to eliminate. Then, as a second requirement, to work on it, to understand it, and as a third requirement, to eliminate it. It is possible to eliminate the defect with the power of the Divine Cosmic Mother, of the Divine Mother Kundalini. However, it is necessary to work with Devi Kundalini Shakti. Call her in the very moment when we need to eliminate the psychic aggregate that we have discovered and understood. Yes, it is necessary to call her and to beg for the disintegration of the defect, and she will do so. The maximum power of the sacred viper, of the divine cobra of the temples, is in the forge of the Cyclops. If a couple which is working in the forge of the Cyclops would truly call the divine cobra in the mere sexual spiritual work, they will be answered. One has to call the transcendental and marvelous power of the cobra, of the divine viper of the ancient mysteries. Do you not have a partner? Does the woman not have a husband? They also can call the sacred cobra, because she will work and disintegrate any defect anyway. I only want to say that the maximum power of her is in the forge of the Cyclops, in the lit forge of Vulcan. I am speaking to you using a serpentine language because you are brothers that have received the missionary course, and for this reason you are prepared to understand this language. When one speaks about the sexual mysteries, one has to do it with decency, with dignity, never in a vulgar language, always using an esoteric, edifying, and essentially dignifying language. If you reach the Buddhist annihilation, if you attain the radical death, you will awake absolutely here and now. Then you will become conscious of life in the superior worlds. It is necessary to die in order to awake. I repeat, here and now. When one truly awakes, the problem of the astral projection finishes. One remains conscious in the physical world and in the superior ones. Then it does not matter if the body is asleep or awake, because one always lives consciously. The problem of the astral projection disappears definitively, because if the body is sleeping, one is conscious in the astral world. One lives and acts consciously there, and comes back to the physical body at will when one wants it. Then, where was the problem of the astral projection? That problem has finished. What really counts is to awake. The third factor is the sacrifice for humanity. It is necessary to love our fellow men, but this love must be demonstrated with clear and definitive actions. It is not enough merely to say that we love our fellow men. No, this must be proven by facts. One must be disposed to ascend to the altar of supreme sacrifice for humanity. The torch of wisdom must be taken up to illuminate the path for others. One must be prepared to give even the last drop of blood for all our fellow men, with true, disinterested, and pure love. Therefore, the third factor for the revolution of the consciousness is the sacrifice for our fellow men. To be born, to die, and to sacrifice for humanity are the three factors that transform us into authentic incarnations of the cosmic Christ. These three factors transform us into gods, even while having human bodies. These factors make us something different. They transform us into deities or ineffable gods, Elohims, daemons, etc. If we were to work with only the first and second factors, to be born and to die, but we did not feel love for our fellow men, and we did nothing to bring the light of knowledge to other people, countries, and languages, we would fall into a very refined spiritual egotism that would impede any inner advance. Therefore, if we are only preoccupied with ourselves and forget the millions of beings that live in the world, we are undoubtedly self-confined in our own egotism. The eye of egotism would not let us achieve illumination. Egotism can appear in very refined forms, and these forms must be eliminated. As long as we have egotism within ourselves, it will not be possible to attain illumination. Egotism is formed by multiple eyes in which the consciousness is trapped. Do we have to eliminate that multiplicity of egotistical eyes? Indeed, because if we do not, the consciousness will remain trapped, narrowed, limited, conditioned, and any possibility of illumination will be nil. We must comprehend that the whole of humanity is a great family. Unfortunately, we are bottled up in many affections and consider only the few around us as family, and that is egotism. Human beings, without exception of race, creed, caste, or color, are one single family. That family is called humanity. If we only see as brothers those who have lived with us since childhood, we are very wrong. If we only want to save those who call themselves our relatives, we are walking egotistically. It is indispensable to see a brother in each person. What I am saying is not based on mere sentimentality, because in truth we are all brothers. It is not a merely sentimental phrase. It is as real as what we are listening to. We are a family, a single great family that should not be divided, a huge family that lives on the earth and is called humanity. To them, to our brothers, we need to bring the knowledge, to show them the path, so that someday they too may walk through it and achieve the final liberation. If we want happiness, we must fight for the happiness of others. When one gives more, one receives more. But from the one who does not give anything, even what he does not have will be taken away. How could we achieve authentic nirvanic or paranirvanic happiness here and now if we do not work for the happiness of others? The authentic happiness of the being cannot be egotistical. It is achieved only through the sacrifice for our fellow men. Thus, those who have attained the highest levels of the being, those who have penetrated the paranirvanic or the mahaparanirvanic worlds, or the monadic or adic worlds, or those who have finally attained fusion with the eternal cosmic common Father, have obviously sacrificed themselves for our fellow men in the world. And that fact gave them enough merits to truly achieve the happiness that has no margins or limits, ever.
Hello everyone. We are experiencing a technological delay right now, so this voice will continue reading the transcript. In order to undertake the missionary course, We must think of the common good and that we must love, yes, in an extraordinary form, all beings that live on the face of the earth. To love not only those who love us, because anyone could do that, but also those who hate us. We love those who love us because they understand us. We love those who hate us because they do not comprehend us. That something called hatred cannot exist in us. There are some who distill and drink their own poison and suffer tremendously, and that is serious. One should not be so foul. The one who is distilling and drinking his own poison is foul. The one who has made a small hell in his mind and carries it with him at every hour is foul. One must think that the best is to love, because if one creates a hell in their mind, they can never be happy. People are full of resentments, and that is really serious, because wherever the eye of resentment exists, love cannot flourish. There is no one who doesn't have resentment. Everybody keeps in their heart words, events, or painful situations, which are naturally accompanied by the consequences, the resentments. What can the one who carries all of that win? In that sense, he does not know how to love. He is revengeful. The one who hates is very near a curse. It is necessary to comprehend others, to learn to see the other's point of view if we want to know how to love. People are not comprehensive. People do not want to comprehend others simply because they do not know how to see the other's point of view. If one puts oneself in the other's point of view, one learns to forgive, learns to love. But if one is not able to forgive anybody, one does not know how to love. Now, to forgive in a mechanical form is not useful at all. One might forgive simply because one has learned in the Gnostic doctrine that it is necessary to forgive, but that is automatic, it is useless. Deep inside will remain the same resentment, the same hatred, and even the same desire for revenge, suffocated or repressed. When the word forgive is said, this implies an elimination. One cannot forgive if one does not eliminate the eye of resentment, if one does not nullify the eye of rancor, if one does not reduce to cosmic dust the eye of vengeance, the eye that wants to take the nail out, etc. As long as one has not eliminated those eyes through comprehension and with the help of Kundalini Shakti, it is not possible that true forgiveness could exist. If one forgives, it will be automatic, and automatic forgiveness is not forgiveness at all. We have to be sincere with ourselves if we want to know how to love. If one is not sincere with oneself, one will never be able to love. To love implies a work, a costly work on oneself. How can one love another person if one does not work on oneself, if one does not eliminate from one's interior the elements of discord, vengeance, resentment, hatred, etc.? When those infrahuman elements exist in our psyche, the capacity to love is nullified. We need to love, yes, all our fellow men. But I repeat, this implies a work. One cannot love as long as the elements of hatred exist in oneself. If we want to love, we have to be sincere, to self-explore ourselves and self-investigate ourselves in order to discover those elements that incapacitate us to love. There is so much feigned love in the different pseudo-esoteric and pseudo-occult schools. We, the Gnostics, must not accept feigned love. We have to be demanding with ourselves. Will we love our fellow men, or will we not love them? Let us be sincere. The case is not to follow mere sublime sentimentalism. We could believe that we love, when in reality, we are not loving. Love is something very sublime. I will give you an example, or some examples about love. The founder of New York was a very intelligent man. He had a wife, and a very distinguished one. When he conceived of New York, that place looked like a paradox. All that existed was vegetation, trees, mountains, etc. He conceived the idea of a big city when observing that region. It was the golden epoch, the epoch in which people were thirsty for gold in the United States, although they have always been thirsty. But in that epoch, this was very evident, the greed for gold, the gold mines, etc. Yes, In his way, he made a mistake that I believe is really serious. He left his wife in the mountains. He did not leave her for any other woman, no, but for the gold, because of the mines. Finally, one day he learned about her. Somebody told him that she was dead. He did not worry much about that, because all he had were throes, an insatiable thirst for gold. Much later, he found a woman and married her. He constructed a railway and established banks. One day, speaking to an audience when he was already a great man, he suddenly found the woman he had left among the people. That man could not even speak. He was confused because he believed she was dead. She had been informed that he had married again and had 6 children. He met her in the audience without warning. He did not know what to do. She said to him, "Do not worry, I know that you got married." He was perplexed because, of course, he remembered his first love. He loved her, but the thirst for gold had made him leave her. He did not know what to do. She said, "You can go on your own way." She also adored him. He tried to go away, but he couldn't. He felt that it was hard to separate from her. But she encouraged him. "Do not look back," she said. "Go forwards. Do not stop because of me. You have to triumph. I love you very much, and I wish your triumph." He left, walking like a sleepwalker until she went away. She loved him very much. He could have left the other woman immediately and gone with her, but she preferred his happiness. That is love. Who among you feels capable of doing that, to be capable of renouncing the most loved for the happiness of the most loved? Love does not want rewards. By itself, it is a gift. It is work with renouncement of the fruits. All it wants is the good of others, even sacrificing one's own happiness. It is a bit hard to attempt to define love. When it is defined, it is distorted. It is like an emanation that comes forth from the depths of the consciousness. It is a function of the being. It is necessary to understand and comprehend the necessity to love our fellow men. Because through love we can transform ourselves, and by loving, distribute blessings, bring the teaching to all the countries of the earth, put others on the right path with the maximum of patience, and know how to forgive the defects of others. Obviously, in bringing the teaching to others, one will find many resistances. Undoubtedly, on many occasions, stones will rain down, but it is necessary to know how to love and forgive everybody, and not to react. People live reacting to the impacts of the external world. There always exists the tendency to react. I have observed in the directives of the Lumicials, in full assembly, that when somebody says something related to another person, the mentioned one always reacts. Sometimes with anger, other times with impatience, but they react in some form. On very rare occasions have I seen an assembly in which a person remains impassive, not reacting to what the others say. There is a tendency in everybody to react against everybody. How funny people are. A button is moved, and they thunder and lighten. If another button is moved, they smile sweetly. The humanoids are machines that everybody can govern as they want. They are like musical instruments, in which each one plays his own song. If somebody wants you to smile, it is enough to say some sweet words and give small slaps on the shoulders, and you smile sweetly. If someone wants you to thunder and lighten, it is enough to say some hard words, and you are already knitting your brow. I am here speaking with you, and I see you smiling a bit. If at this moment I were to snarl at you, what would happen? You would change immediately. You would not be so smiling, you would knit your eyebrows. How sad, but it is the reality. Why? Because you are machines that everybody can play, instruments like the guitar. All that the one who wants to see you happy needs is to say some sweet words, and we are already happy. But the one who wants to see you full of hatred has to say some heavy words, and we will be angry. So, we depend on others. We do not have freedom, we do not own our psychological processes, and everybody makes of us what he wants. Some small words of compliment, and immediately, we feel self-important, other small words of humiliation, and how sad and small we feel. If everybody can make of us what they want, then where is our autonomy? When will we stop being machines? It is obvious that in order to learn to love, it is necessary to get autonomy, because if one does not own one's psychological processes, one can never love. How could one? If others are able to make us go from a state of peace to a state of discord, when would we be able to love? As long as one is psychologically dependent on others, one is not able to love. The dependence obstructs love. We need to finish with the dependency and to become owners of ourselves, owners of our own psychological processes. When I had the reincarnation of Thomas à Kempis, I wrote in my book, The Imitation of Christ, in that old reincarnation, a phrase that says, "I am not more because I am flattered, nor less because I am vituperated. I always am what I am." We have to be impassive in flattery and in vituperation, in triumph and in defeat, always serene, impassive, always owners of ourselves, of our own psychological processes. In this way, walking through this path, we will be able to stay always stable in that which is called love. We need to establish ourselves in the kingdom of love, but we could not do so if we do not own our psychological processes. If others are able to make us feel anger when they want, if others are able to make us feel hatred, if others are able to make us feel the desire for vengeance, obviously we are not owners of ourselves. In those conditions, we could never be established in the kingdom of love. We would be in the kingdom of hatred, discord, egotism, violence, but never in the kingdom of that which is called love. We have to stay permanently in the kingdom of love. We have to become owners of our psychological processes. If we knock on a door and we are received with stones because we are going to give the Gnostic teaching, if we leave with the desire for vengeance or terribly confused, then we would not be good Gnostic missionaries. If we arrive in a town to teach the word and the priest expels us, and then we feel terror, would we perhaps be good Gnostic missionaries? Terror makes us unable to love. What makes us feel fear? Death? If we have been born and our destiny is to die, so what? If one dies some days before or some days after, so what? One has to die anyway. Then, what do we feel fear for? Death itself is as natural as birth. If we feel fear of death, we also have to feel fear of birth, because they are the two extremes of the same phenomenon called life. To feel fear of death? Why, if all that has been born has to die? The plants are born and die. The worlds are born and die. Even this planet was born one day, and one day will be a cadaver. Then it will be transformed into a new moon. So, to fear death, why? Death is everybody's crown, and certainly a very beautiful one. One should never see death with horror. It has to be seen as it is. To see a cadaver in a coffin, in the middle of the room, does not mean that one has understood the mystery of death. The mystery of death is very sacred. The origin of life could never be comprehended if we have not profoundly comprehended the mystery of death. When one really understands what the mysteries of death are, one understands the mysteries of life. The death offers us delicious moments. With the death comes peace. It is worthless to fear death. If somebody were to die doing one's duty, working for humanity, that somebody would be amply rewarded in the superior worlds. To give one's life for our fellow men is something sublime. That was what the divine Rabbi of Galilee did. It is what all the saints have done, the martyrs. Saint Stephen, stoned because he was teaching the word. Peter, crucified with his head down to the earth and his legs upwards, in order to indicate the work in the forge of the Cyclops. Those are what they are, real martyrs. Those are the ones that later distinguish themselves in the Mahamanvantara as gods. So, to feel fear is absurd. The most that would happen to us is to be executed. And what? After all of that, what? To die some days before or some days later is something that does not have any importance. It is worth thinking about all of these things. Because of fear, Men arm themselves to kill others. Because of fear, there exist the wars among the nations. Each nation fears that the other could invade, and they arm themselves, and then comes the disaster. Because of the fear, there exist the thefts by those who fear life. Because of the fear, there exist the prostitutes who fear hunger. Because of the fear, a man kills another man. Fear is the root of many curses over the earth. One has to destroy the eye of fear. We have to leave fear on the threshold of the temple. Unfortunately, there are different classes of fear. The one who has fear would never succeed in the test of the guardian of the immense region. How could he confront him if he feels fear? The one who has fear, out of his physical body, ends up shrieking. You can be sure that we are alone, each one of us, and that the only family we have is the one called humanity. One, after death, has to arrive at the conclusion that one is alone. The good reputation of the father and the mother, the affection of his brothers, his friends, all of that belongs to the past. One finds that one is just another creature of nature, and this is it, without name or surname, and terribly alone. The father, the mother, and the small brothers, they are only the fascination of one day. We do not have any of that. We are frightfully alone. The only things we have to find within ourselves are the secret Father and our eternal Mother, always divine, the Kundalini, and the Lord Christ. And the family? It is all the millions of human beings. I do not say only the ones from the earth, but also from all the worlds in space. That is the reality. What I am saying is a crude reality, but it is the reality. It is crude because you love your relatives, isn't it? Now, if it were that I did not have family, you would say, well, you do not have family, so what do you care for? No, I do have a family, and I understand that all of that is vain. I do not want to tell you that I do not love my relatives. I love them, as you love your relatives. I have just experimented directly the reality of my own family, and I have arrived at the conviction that the family is all of humanity. I do not have resentments with the family. I do not want you to believe that I am speaking with some resentment. No, when I say that I experimented the reality of what the family is, I'm talking about the teaching in its transcendental form. Out of my body, I was taught the mysteries of life and death. On a certain occasion, I was made to feel death in advance. I was made to get out of the physical body, and once out of the form, I was made to advance in time and to see myself dead. What did I see? A cadaver. What was in the coffin? A body. What body? Mine. Who were in front of the coffin, in the room full of flowers? Relatives. Among my relatives was my mother. I went to her. I kissed her hand and said, "Thank you for the body that you gave me. That body was very useful. It was marvelous. Thank you." I went to all the other relatives to say goodbye. I left that home and I submerged myself among the entrails of nature, convinced that I was disembodied. What existed? Nature, profound valleys, mountains, oceans, clouds, air, sun. And what about my relatives? They were in the past. I did not have relatives. The names and last names, my lineage, my country, my language, where were they? Things of the past. Now I was totally submerged among savage nature, absolutely savage. And what about my dear family? All I could exclaim was, I do not have family already. And the beings that used to be with me, that was something from the past. Now I am alone, frightfully alone. I am just a creature of nature, a savage nature. What exists are some valleys, some mountains, a soil humidified by the rain. And my house? I do not have house. And goods? I do not have any terrestrial possession. How will I get those goods? Then, who am I? A particle of nature, a savage nature that does not have any relation with the relatives. Conclusion. My family is all the humanity, or all the humanities, or all the worlds, the planetary humanities, and that is all. However, I felt a bit of sadness when I realized that the silver cordon was not broken. I would have wanted to break it, but it was intact. I did not have more choice but to return. I thought that I was already disconnected from the physical form. and I had to come back again. And I returned. Yes, I penetrated in my body. That is the reality of the relation with the relatives, friends, cousins, brothers, uncles, nephews, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and all of what fascinates us. We need to raise the heart a bit more with the phrase "sussum corda," hearts up, and to know that all of us are a great family, to see in each person a brother, to feel each one of our brothers as blood of our blood. Do not see the others as strange, as different people, because that is absurd. All of us are a huge and immense family called humanity. We have to sacrifice ourselves for that immense family with true love. If we do so, we will be fulfilling the third factor for the revolution of consciousness in complete form. The law of karma and good actions. When one works for others, one is also rewarded. Even if one renounces the fruits of the action, one is always rewarded. Working for the others, we can cancel the old karma that we bring from past existences. I have known many persons who suffer the different problems of life. For example, those who have economical problems undoubtedly made economical problems for many people in the past, and now they harvest what they sowed. They drink from their own chocolate. However, they complain and protest and blaspheme and want to improve the economical situation, but do not fix the mistakes that they have made, are not members of some cooperative, are not capable of dividing their bread and giving half to the hungry, are not capable of giving a shirt to someone to wear, are not capable of giving a consolation to anybody, but they want to be in a better shape economically. Of course, they ask for services, they ask to be helped in order to change their situation, but they do not worry to help anybody. They are parasites that live under the sun. In that form, how could it be possible to get a better economical situation? Every cause brings its effect. Karma is an effect of a previous cause. If we want to nullify the effect, we have to begin by annulling the cause that produced it. The cause is intelligently nullified, knowing how to do so. You will find all of these things in the path. Some who want you to cure them, but who never care to cure anybody. Many who have very serious economical problems, but who never care to cooperate in some form with somebody, etc. Each one has his problems, and the problems are created by the ego and nothing else but the unfortunate ego. One can nullify all the problems if one does not have ego. If the ego does not exist, the problems do not exist. Why? Because there is no one who could react inside of the mind. There does not exist a revengeful I that could complicate the situation. There is no one who hates within ourselves or through us. Then there are no problems. The problems are created by the ego and nothing else. Working for the good of others, one cancels the old karmas. The one who helps others helps himself. The one who gives, receives, and when more gives, more receives. That is the law. The lion of the law is fought with the balance. If in one plate of the balance we would put the good actions in the plate of the good actions, and we incline the balance in our favor, the karma would be nullified. It is true that we have to strongly fight the lion of the law with the balance. That is the key to defeat the karma. As the lords of the law say, do good actions in order to pay your debts. The one who has money pays and is successful in business, but the one who does not have money has to go to jail and lose all his goods. So it is necessary to do a lot of good actions in order to pay our old debts. With the capital of good actions, we can pay the old karma without necessity to suffer. There is no need to make our life sour. I know a person, I do not mention his name. He suffers a lot, always in a bad economical situation, always in misery. Every business that he makes fails. There is no business in which he does not fail. He has a wife and children, and he disputes with them constantly. His sign is Leo, also hers. They should not dispute, but it seems that the lions are that way. They fight constantly, are not happy. I have seen them in the zoo of Chapultepec. They are always fighting. Leo with Leo, it seems that they do not understand each other. Well, the curious thing in this is that he always asks to be helped economically, to be worked for him in the world of causes and effects, but I have never seen him do anything in favor of his fellow men. He asks but does not give. He asks and asks and asks, but never gives. However, he asks. With what right does he ask if he does not give? It is like when one wants to get a remission of one's debts and is not capable of forgiving one's fellow men. Everybody says in the Lord's Prayer, "And forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors." But if one does not forgive one's debtors, one's enemies, with what right asks the Father to be forgiven? With what right asks for mercy when one is not capable of giving mercy? With what right asks for charity if one is not able to give it? That is how everybody is. They ask but do not give, and that is very serious. The Gnostic missionaries have to give. What will he give? Wisdom and love to his fellow men. That is what he will give. He will help, but with love. Through the magic chains, it is possible to help our fellow men. The chains are marvelous in order to irradiate love, to cure sick people. With the chains, it is possible to invoke the master of the wisdom. Then they can help the sick people. With the chains, it is possible to invoke, for example, Raphael, who is a great universal healer. He is the one who cured the patriarch Job, the same that cured Tobias. That is what he is, a great worldwide or universal healer, a great doctor. With the chains, it is also possible to invoke doctors such as Hippocrates, Galen, Philippus Aureolus Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, Aureolus Paracelsus, etc. With the chains, it is possible to invoke the potencies of the light in order to be assisted at a determinate moment, to conjure the potencies of darkness in order to live in peace, etc. The magic chains are formidable. The left hand receives and the right gives. The chain makes extraordinary circuits of magnetic force. With the chains, it is possible to do great works. The universal Gnostic Christian movement walks successfully on all battlefronts. It is established in the Western Hemisphere and agglutinates 5 million people. At this moment, it is preparing itself to go to Europe, and of course, before long, it will be established in Europe. Afterwards, we will be established in Asia, but we have to work for humanity. Once our work in Europe is done, we will establish in Japan in order to do the work in all the Asiatic continent. We are giving to humanity the gospel of the new era of Aquarius. There will be a cataclysm with the arrival of Hercolubus. It is a giant world, 6 times bigger than Jupiter, thousands of times bigger than the Earth. It belongs to the Tyler solar system, a system that is traveling in the direction of our solar system of Ours. And of course, this world, Hercolubus, has a huge, immense orbit. Each time that it has reached the Earth, it has produced a catastrophe. When it reached the Earth in times of the Mu continent, it produced huge earthquakes, many volcanoes appeared, and finally, Lemuria was submerged at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, over 10,000 years. When it came in times of Atlantis, this continent was submerged in the ocean that has its name, in the Atlantic Ocean. It was submerged with all its millions of inhabitants. Now Hercolubus comes once again, and I can assure you that it will produce a total revolution of the Earth's axis. When it is very close, it will forcefully attract the liquid fire of the world. Then volcanoes will appear everywhere in eruption, accompanied by terrible earthquakes. Remember what the ancestors of Anahuac said. That is something that for us, the Mexicans, has great value. The sons of the 5th sun will die by the fire and the earthquakes. Recently, there was a great earthquake in Europe that killed about 7,000. The Federal District here in Mexico will have a great earthquake that will destroy it. This earthquake will affect also the north of our country, Mexico, and the Mexicans have to be prepared for that great earthquake. So there will be great events in the future. When Hercolubus arrives, fire will appear everywhere, volcanoes will appear, and the earthquakes will destroy all what now exists. That will be the day of the great universal fire, prophesied by Peter in his general epistle, when he said, "And the elements shall melt with fervent heat, the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Then, the last effect of Hercolubus in its supreme approach will be the revolution of the earth's axis. The oceans will be displaced. The actual lands will be at the bottom of the waters. Nothing will last. Nothing. Nothing of this perverse generation of vipers. Everything will be destroyed. Of course, there will be a small group that will be saved from the waters. We will be working in order to reorganize that small group, and the Gnostic missionaries have the duty to keep working. That group will be the worldwide Salvation Army. That group will be selected in its moment and time. Before the final cataclysm, the brothers of Tibet, among which my insignificant person is, will work as a team in order to take those that had worked on themselves, those that would have achieved the dignity that corresponds. We will carry them to a secret place in the Pacific, a place where nothing will happen to them. The brothers of some secret Himalayas groups, and I agree in that, and those that will be carried to the island will become the core of the future humanity. In those days, I say, after the great cataclysm, the earth will be covered by fire and vapor of water, and the few that will be part of that core will live among the fog. They could be considered as sons of the fog, as the Nibelungen of the ancient times. When the double rainbow would shine in the sky, there will already be new lands, emerged from the bottom of the oceans, and in those new lands will live a new humanity, an innocent and pure humanity, a perfect humanity. Then will come the Golden Age, announced by Virgil, the poet of Mantua, when he said, "The Golden Age has already arrived, and a new lineage commands." We are working to create the worldwide Salvation Army. That is our work. That is the work of all the missionaries. We will open lumicioles everywhere with the purpose to create the worldwide Salvation Army. The end of the times has begun, and we are on them. Hercolubus will be visible in all the world observatories. In the Gnostic Association of Mexico, we have our own map. Where does this map come from? From a magazine library. Who made it? The astronomers. It is an official matter that is known in all the Earth's observatories. Well, if the astronomers have not published it, what is the reason? The censure. They are forbidden by law to put the people, the state, in a state of psychological despair. They have forbidden it by law, but they do not ignore it. They know it, and they have the maps. So, what I'm talking about is something completely official, that is already known. Now you will understand why we worry so much in these moments in spreading the teaching. It is clear that we need to cooperate with the sun. The sun will finish with this race and will put a new race on the map of the world, and we need to cooperate with the sun. This race gave its fruits. What it had to give is given. We are in the final hour. The watch of destiny is detained. The elder Saturn, in the form of a skeleton with his scythe in his hand, stands beside the watch. Any time, the catastrophe. That is the crude reality of the facts, my dear brothers, and here I end my lecture with you. Inverencial peace. Samael Aun Weor.